Thank you, Your Honor. Before you today on State versus Justin Ruth, we're here today for sentencing. The state of Ohio has had the opportunity to review the pre-sentence report and is prepared to go forward. And I would remind the court that we have an agreed 2-year prison sentence as part of the plea agreement.
So, Your Honor, we do have an agreed 2-year recommendation for prison for Mr. Ruth. Mr. Ruth prior has done treatment. He did treatment at Wellbrook Recovery. He indicated he was sober for a year. Once these charges came to, he did become stressed. He did relapse a couple of times, so that is the reason for testing positive for the methamphetamine. With regard to the controlled buys, Mr. Ruth indicated that he was buying the drugs and selling them to feed his own addiction. He indicated he would purchase extra drugs, sell the remainder, and keep some for himself just to keep his addiction going. Your Honor, he does have a good support system. He is married. He does have children. His one child is 7 years old and does have special needs. He does try to be there for him as much as he can. So we just ask the court for any leniency today. Thank you.
I would benefit more from treatment than prison. I don't think I should not have consequences, but
treatment for what?
For the addiction, sir.
Well, you told Miss Warren that the last time you used meth was in March of 25, and you tested positive in April of 16, so how is that possible?
When we were talking about active addiction, that was a year ago.
What does active addiction mean?
The active addiction is when I was using regularly. I did relapse recently due to some stress, but I was able to put it back down. And
you tested positive when you were referred for a PSR on April 22nd. When that was addressed with Miss Warren, you indicated you don't know how that could be possible because you hadn't used since March of 2025. Why did you tell her that? Did you use, or do you not know how you tested positive?
I had used, Your Honor.
Then why did you tell her you didn't? That you had no idea how the positive test would have happened because you weren't using it?
Because honestly, I thought I had quit.
What do you mean you
Well, I had quit long enough that I should have had a clean test.
So you lied to her. When you told her you hadn't used since March of 2025 and you tested positive on April 22nd of 26, and you told her you had no idea how that happened because you hadn't used for some 13 months, you lied to her. Right?
Yes.
I don't, you got some equivocation on that?
I wasn't actively using.
I don't know what that means. If you use, then you're active. Then
but
you're
I had used and thought I would have been clean.
Why are you trying to split hairs like this?
I was just being
See,
sir.
Now let's get to the next part of this thing. Written version, when you went over for your referral, you said you were asked to get drugs from an individual you knew, and you wanted enough for yourself. When you talked to her, when she interviewed you when you came back, you indicated that the drugs, a large amount of drugs found in your bedroom where you stayed at this house, were not yours. But you decided you did things illegal in the past. You had been on drugs, but the drugs weren't yours. So if the drugs weren't yours, it resulted in the felony 2 charge. Why did you plead guilty to this case?
Because I had drugs, and I was holding myself accountable for the drugs that I had in there.
These drugs weren't yours?
Those particular ones at that time?
In your bedroom weren't yours?
At that particular time, no.
Okay. Whose were they?
There were 3 other active users in the house.
Active mean using?
Yes, sir.
Stop with the active and inactive. What's an inactive user? There's no such thing.
Correct.
Okay. So you pled guilty to an F3, which there's a presumption for prison. You know that, right? Because we talked about that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But the drugs weren't yours.
Correct. At that time. But I had some.
At that time. That's what I'm talking about. The drugs found.
Mm-hmm.
They could only have been found at that time. Those weren't yours. So how am I supposed to sentence somebody for a crime that they say they committed that they actually didn't commit? How am I supposed to do that?
because I had committed that crime.
But you're not charged with, in the past, committing that crime. You're charged with, in this situation, committing that crime. Well, of course, the real answer is you're lying to me, okay? Because you lied to her. You're lying all over the place. Okay, so that's the real answer. Those drugs were yours, okay? You were living at the house at that time, right?
I wasn't staying at that
What?
time. I was not staying at the house at that time.
You were staying versus living. We're gonna parse this definition now too. Where were you staying?
Most of the time I was staying at my wife's house.
Okay, and didn't you say somewhere along the line that you were in treatment at that time, so you weren't staying, living, whatever at that house?
I was preparing to go to treatment, and then
Didn't you say you were in treatment?
Like a week later.
Didn't you say you were in treatment at the time, as opposed to preparing to go into treatment at the time?
I got into treatment maybe a week later.
Right.
Is when I finally got in.
But did you tell Miss Warren that you were in treatment at the time?
I told her that I completed treatment shortly after.
Okay. Whew. So you started this by saying you want me to put you on probation, right? Is that right?
At some kind of treatment I think I would benefit from, yes.
Okay.
Further treatment.
Well, I thought you already had treatment.
I had some.
Okay. I mean, at best, this was kind of a half-assed treatment, wasn't it? Wasn't some of this on the computer?
I did a residential, and then was doing some online meetings and stuff. And
What do you do on an online meeting?
it's basically the same as in person. It's just over.
Well, it's nothing like in person. Okay.
The format is.
It's a format. Well, it's a complete waste of time. So the treatment you're talking about that you completed was Wellbrook Recovery?
Yes, sir.
You went in there on March 23rd, right?
That sounds about right. Yes.
That's what the records show. And the offense here was committed March 18th. So when you said you were in treatment and you weren't at the house and it wasn't yours, that's not true. Are these records we have, or are these Mr. Ruth saying this?
They're records from the actual facility, Your Honor.
Okay, so May 6th is completed. And then you reported, which means this is you talking, that you would attend alumni sessions. What's an alumni session?
Alumni sessions are people that have graduated, from that program, become alumni, and twice a week they would have AA meetings, NA meetings.
And so you went twice a week
Yes, sir.
until this happened?
I probably stopped going to them, 3-4 months maybe before this event happened.
When did you get involved again with the meth after you had stopped using after Wellbrook Recovery?
When I got arrested for this and everything was going on, I got pretty stressed out. And
When
did you get arrested for this?
Your Honor, I believe it was beginning of March of 2026.
And so by your story that you're telling today, you had been not using drugs for a year. You get arrested and you start using drugs again. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And where did you get the drugs when you started using again?
I couldn't tell you the gentleman's name. I found him online.
How did you find them online?
It's
What website did you go to say, where do I find a meth dealer in my area? Where?
it was an app called Grindr.
Grindr?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that some kind of sex app or something?
It is, but I found that it's also full of people who.
So where did you find these drugs then on the Grindr app?
Someone that was advertising that he had drugs.
Who was advertising that?
The gentleman that I found online on that app.
I know who.
I couldn't tell you his name. I've never seen him before or after.
So where'd you meet him?
At the Headlands Beach.
And how did you know who it was?
He
How
said,
did you find this person?
he said I'd be in a red car, and I told him I was in a black car, and he came and gave me the drugs, and I gave him the money, and
Okay, so you only used once then?
twice.
Twice?
It was the same batch of drugs, but I used, yeah,
Okay, so you only bought drugs once.
correct,
Okay, what quantity did you buy?
a gram.
A gram. When you were using the year previous, for whatever period of time that was, how much were you using a day?
Probably 2 to 3 grams a day.
Okay, so you bought a gram from somebody that you met on some app that you connected with somewhere. Bought a gram. How much was a gram?
$20, sir.
Okay, and so you used some of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did you use the rest of it?
I want to say it was April, somewhere around the.
So you
12th.
saved some of that gram for a month.
I had thought I'd thrown it out and then found it again
Where'd you find it?
in my room near the trash can.
Okay. Boy, oh boy. That would be unusual that a meth addict would buy a gram of meth, not use all of it,
I thought I had,
And-
to be honest.
and then threw the rest away.
I thought I had used all of it, thrown the bag away, and then when I found the bag, it still had some in it, and I used again.
Okay. Other than that, you didn't use it all between March and April when you got arrested.
Correct.
Okay. Don't believe that. I don't believe that. So far, you've told me nothing that I can reliably believe. Who's Stephen Six?
That would be my roommate, the owner of the house that I was staying in.
How did you meet Stephen Six?
Honestly, I don't remember. He was a neighbor. I lived, prior to being at that house, I lived pretty close.
How did you meet Six? Through drugs?
Probably, Your Honor.
Well, so your story is that on these drug sales, or Six's story on these drug sales, is that he was acting on your behalf on the third sale. Is that true?
I mean, he had his drugs, and that's where I got them most of the time. He supplied a
Well,
lot of them.
the CI is the one that got you involved in this, right?
Yeah.
Somebody you knew, right?
That I had met through Six, yes.
Okay. And on the third controlled buy on March 10th of 2025, the CI set up another buy with you, right?
Probably.
Come on.
I mean, I can't.
I mean, I
recall
never saw
exactly.
anybody. You're like Bill Clinton out there, hedging every word. Okay. So you agreed to sell this CI some drugs on March 10th, and you weren't at the residence, right?
Sounds correct, yes.
Okay.
I would have had to gotten the drugs from Six
Okay.
to give to him anyways, so I just told him to skip me as the middleman that particular time, and
So who's the middleman, you or Six?
I was.
Okay. Which is why all those drugs in your room didn't belong to you, right?
Correct.
Okay.
There was an extra gentleman that had been staying there for a while that didn't actually live there, didn't have his own space. So since I wasn't using the space, he was pretty much using my room.
Wasn't this a 3-bedroom house?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, you've got to become acquainted with the truth. You ain't anywhere near the truth now. And so my guess is when you're done with your sentence, you'll be right back doing the same thing again.
I don't believe so, sir.
Yeah, I think so. But that remains to be seen. That's up to you. Anything else you want to tell me?
No.
Mr. Geigrich?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want the court to recall that this case originated with the Lakewood Police Department Narcotics Unit, which contacted Lake County Narcotics about an individual from Menor selling drugs in Lakewood. He then conducted 3 controlled buys and did a search warrant on the home. He's talking about he's selling grams of meth for $20. Each one of these buys was for $40. It was my understanding that the charges to be reduced to take him out of mandatory prison with an agreed sentence of 2 years, which the F2 would have done. At this point, it was my understanding that we had an agreed sentence of 2 years. At this point, the defendant is indicating he does not agree to that. So I'd ask you for a 3-year sentence. Thank you.
Ms. Tomaszek, do you want to address that?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I did have multiple conversations with Mr. Ruth prior to his plea and in the pendency of the pre-sentence report. I did reiterate to him on multiple different occasions that part of the plea agreement was the agreed 2 years. It was my understanding that Mr. Ruth did have an understanding of that. I do understand that Mr. Ruth does believe he does need treatment. I know he's gotten treatment in the past, but I know we've had multiple conversations regarding the plea agreement, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, I've reviewed the pre-sentence report. Consider what Mr. Ruth has said, unbelievable as it may be, what counsel has said, what their agreement that was put on the record. I don't know why you come in here and spew the nonsense that you do and expect any consideration for that. Given a very generous offer to get out of the substantial mandatory time of an F2, you have indicated to me today and in the pre-sentence report that they weren't your drugs, which is a lie. You have done your best to skirt the truth with Ms. Warren and in this courtroom today. So I'm not going to go along with the agreed sentence. I'm going to sentence you to 30 months in prison with credit for 36 days that you've served, and the cost will be assessed. When you get out, you may be on post-release control for up to 2 years with the parole authority. Anything else, Mr. Geigwitz? The remaining charges are dismissed. Anything else, Mr. Geigwitz?
The forfeiture.
Forfeiture of the items. Ms. Tomaszek.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
All rise.